It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
And we're all back, and everything's working.
Yeah,
So far, so good.
We're all here. Feels like it's been a while. Well, we're all physically here.
I know, because our weeks are lasting like 3 weeks long now, you know.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I remember on Twitter someone... Oh, no. It was... it may have been Warren Ellis's newsletter that came out today talking about March lasting 100 days.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, that's about right. So, hope everybody out there is doing well, staying safe.
Washing your hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. One of the Twitch streamers I was watching the other day, and of course, this is kind of going on over there, and they were talking about it between her and the chat. They decided their phrase is going to be if someone leaves, it's stay safe, stay home, and stay the fuck away from me.
Even when all this is over.
So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Man, I got sucked down a rabbit hole. The rabbit hole called the Tiger King. Have you guys seen that yet?
Yes.
I don't have to, because everybody and their uncle is talking about it on social media. So I'm like, what in the fuck is Tiger King? So I had to look it up. Okay, never mind. I don't want to know.
My daughter-in-law was like, you have to watch this. I said, okay. I watched the first episode, and there was like, no, there is no way in hell I can sit through 7 episodes of this. I mean, when people say redneck, this is the people they're talking about. I mean, he'll even tell you he is. But it's by the second episode, you're like, wait, what? Wait, she soaked her husband in sardines? What? So it's one of those things that it's like a train wreck. You don't know why the hell you're watching, but you can't look away.
And you're waiting for season 2.
Yes. But it all ends, guys in jail for 20 years and watching the whole thing. Now, it's easy to sit at home and go, here's what went wrong. But after watching the story unfold, or the story that they gave us unfold, it sounded like there at the end, the guy wanted his zoo. So it was like, hey, you remember when he said he wanted to kill her? And he was like, oh, yeah. So it kind of sounded like it was easy to prove that he wanted her dead because it was all over the internet and he said it several times, So but it's like, wow. But they never really tell you what he's there for till like almost the end of the show. It starts off with him in jail, but you don't know what happened, I was honestly expecting him to kill this woman. Yeah. But even after it's all said and done, I'm still like, what the hell was that? I don't understand. She was in Tampa. He was in Oklahoma. So why was she even a blip on his radar? I don't know. I guess there's not a lot of tiger circles you could run in. Yeah. But it's like, wow. It was just a really good lesson on these people are messed up. This is why I'm staying indoors right now. Yeah.
This is why you were staying indoors before all this.
Right.
I think it's because she found that he was selling tiger cubs. Make it a business, and as her gloriousness, she decided that she was going to lash out at him on the internet.
For doing the same things that she was doing.
That she was doing. And, of course, he was then tossing in the fact that he had proof that she killed her husband. And she could do this. She could lash out at him because she had PETA as her support.
Yep. And a bunch of people who had only heard one side. But the kind of person he was, he's easy to hate. Just, he's one of those loud, obnoxious people, Especially, I don't think I could watch a lot of his TV shows. I don't know how successful he was in that, but... And if he burnt his alligators alive, he's messed up,
True.
That was just, but it seemed to be his go-to. When he got in trouble, he burned everything. So it's kind of like, So it's a lot to make you think. And my sister asked me, she says, should I watch this? And I told her, I said, no. If you don't have 7 hours to invest in this, don't. Because after you watch by the second episode, you're like, wait, what? Next episode.
But didn't you sit there and take sides and change within an episode so many times?
Yes.
If you sided with her in episode 1, you go to episode 2 and you go, wait a minute. And I found myself just back and forth all through the end of the 7th episode. Yeah. And I went, what the hell?
Yeah. But I can't believe that her husband came up missing like that, and everybody was like, oh, well, she's a millionaire now. She had absolutely nothing to gain. Really? I have a million things that she can gain.
Yeah.
And then for her to make the comment that she did about feeding it to the tigers, well, lady, this is why everybody thinks you fed your missing husband to the tigers, With sardines, you even knew how to do it. So, but, I've always kind of been on the fence with the whole tiger thing, because I've seen the good and the bad. I've seen people really treat these animals with the majestic, just the respect they deserve. And then I've seen some that it's really bad. I do know that they showed a white tiger. He had a white tiger. Now, at one time, they were near extinction. And had it not been for people to bring them into their animal sanctuaries and breed them, they would have been extinct. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't want animals to be bred for profit like that, but at the same time, I want white tigers in the world. Any animal doesn't deserve to be extinct. So sometimes we have to do things we don't necessarily agree with, I guess, to make that happen. And that's one of the whole tiger thing is one that sometimes you have to kind of turn a blind eye to, because there is so much good going on that they've helped with, but then there's a lot that they're doing that they need to correct, But from what I saw, he treated his animals well, even when they weren't eating, those tigers were, so I don't know. But then I've also been in situations where people had a pet, and you can love them all you want, but if you don't take good care of them, So, but yes, that's the Tiger King hole. I'm glad to see Les fell down that one too.
Yeah, Gina said that people started talking to her about it the day after I watched the first 2 episodes. She said, you must have found something. I said, it's freaking amazing to watch.
Yep. You just never know where it's going next. And how you were saying changing sides, all the people they interviewed, can't you kind of see they kept changing sides too?
Yeah. Yes.
And some people who were his friends weren't really his friends there at the end.
No.
And I think he wanted her dead, but at the same time, I don't think he would have paid somebody to do it. For one thing, he was all kinds of money trouble because of her, but, I don't think he would have done that. Part of his notoriety and what was keeping him around was his feud with her.
True. It's well worth the time. To me, it's well worth the time to watch.
Yep. But don't go by the first episode. They should have, I don't know what they did wrong with that one. But like I said, the first episode, I was like, what? I can't do this.
Well, they hooked me at the very end when they were having the recording of a telephone conversation from the prison.
Yep.
I went, okay.
That's the way all of them end, was that way. And then the second episode, they released the tidbit of, oh, yeah, she may have killed her husband. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why did y'all start with this? So, yeah, it's definitely one of those that keeps you next episode. Oh, and one other thing, if you guys don't mind. Right now, a lot of our comic book stores, a lot of them have shut the doors, but I didn't know if other people knew that a lot of them right now are offering like curbside service. If you go to their social medias, especially Facebook, I think Awesome Comics, he puts a lot of his stuff up on Facebook, and he has a very heavy eBay presence. So if you're looking for something special, he usually does it. He's also made the comment out there that he's still buying comics. So if you guys are looking for something or trying to unload something, Awesome is still around. Red Pegasus is also offering deliveries right now. They're offering curbside service. They do have a website, which from my understanding has most of their inventory on the website, but they're also hooked up with Comic Hub. So if you see something there that you like, be sure to hit up Red Pegasus. Like I said, they'll either deliver it to your car curbside or they'll deliver it to you. Plus, they have a flat rate $3.99 shipping. So if you want to order something and don't even want to mess with in person or anything else, they can send it right out to you. And also one other store, Urban Comics right now is doing deliveries. They're also doing a curbside service, and he has something he's calling a mystery box. And I think they start at $20, and they go on up to however much you want to spend. You give it to him. I think his name is Ryan at that store. And he puts together, from all the comments I'm seeing, are some really good, nice mystery boxes. Also, if you go to their Facebook site, he's been doing videos of the graphic novels that they have in stock, of puzzles, games, all that kind of stuff. So if you're still needing comics at this time, our comic book stores, they're really struggling. And they're trying to do everything they can to put comics in your hands. So, right now, while they're pushing community, just remember, these are the guys who take care of you all of the time. So, like I said, those are the three that stood out to me. I don't know if you guys know of more comic book stores doing that kind of thing, but I thought that would kind of tie in with how we've been kicking our graphic novels and stuff off. To let people know that they are still open. Jake at Awesome, he's there Monday through Friday, 11 to 6. So he's whether his doors are shut or not, he's there. So if you guys need something, Facebook would definitely be the place to start, and hit them up. Most of them reply within the hour, so just don't forget them.
Yep, they are almost exclusively small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you can to support them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we were going to go over all that a little bit later when we're going to do our picks. But since you brought up specific stores, I'll bring up one that you did not mention. Collected is doing a unique thing where they're setting up time slots that you can kind of like do an appointment. And basically, what will happen is they'll do basically kind of like a conference call or something like that through Facebook Messenger, and an employee is literally walking around the store with with some kind of camera, probably the phone or something like that, and basically showing you everything. And you can sit from your house, say, I want that, pick that up for me, I want that, I want that, I want that, and they'll turn around, ring it all up, and then you pay the bill, and then they'll ship it to you.
Wow, that's cool. Personal shopper.
I just saw that last night, and that's something I may do. I mean, it's too late for me to do it this week, but I'm sure they'll be doing it again next week. So yeah, I'm going to do that.
A lot of these comic book stores have gotten really inventive. I threw Red Pegasus out there. April 14th, I believe it is. He's doing a whole thing on Adam Hughes' art. I mean, who wouldn't want to set in and listen to that? It'll be too late for you guys, but like I said, it's things like that they're doing right now to keep their fan base engaged. Yeah. So.
Well, and the thing to do is, yes, you're probably going to miss the Adam Hughes one, but if that goes over well, they'll do it again. So the deal is get on their mailing list. Send them your email address and say, hey, send me yours, because they send out stuff. I'm on Red Pegasus' email address. Email list. I get stuff from them all the time. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And right now it's kind of like, what do you guys want? And he gave a pretty good list of options and stuff. So I'm real excited to see what they're going to do there.
Yeah. So yes, by all means, if you're not already doing that, follow your favorite local comic store on their social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, what have you. Follow them, and if you can, like I said, we'll go over this a little bit later in the show. But if you have the funds, please try to support them, because this situation is hurting them. Mm-hmm. Although I did see something that Diamond was trying to work arrangements to where the current warehouses that are still open, that has current and past merchandise, try to set it up where UPS can deliver to retailers' houses, so they can be able to turn around and sell that stuff. So they're trying to work with them with that, try to help out the stores as best as they can with the situation that they're in. So that's pretty cool that they can do that, because that's not something they've been allowed to do, because it has to be, so
it has to be brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go through long links to prove to them that you're a brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, alrighty. Let's go ahead and get in. We still got Les's.
All of y'all.
Well,
I started.
Mike started.
No, I didn't say anything though yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I let Liz start.
Okay. All right. So who's next then?
Oh, I'll go next. I don't have much this week. Two brief things. One, I'm actually feeding off of one from Les from a couple of weeks ago. He mentioned a documentary. I can't remember now if it was on Amazon Prime or Netflix. It's about Margaret Rutherford. The lady who played Miss Marple for several years.
Mm-hmm.
He was right. It was actually a surprisingly interesting documentary. Her story. She was a kind of a quirky person, just in general. It wasn't that she did anything that had like weird adventures or anything, but she was kind of an odd person, and which made them, in the documentary, they brought in a bunch of friends of hers from back in the day, and just all kinds of interesting little quirky stories about the kind of odd duck that she was. It was really kind of nice. It was a nice.
I like odd ducks.
Yeah, she was. I mean, it's not anywhere. It's not even going to scratch the surface of Tiger King or anything, but she was interesting, and it made for an interesting hour-long documentary. The other thing that I am as much curious about as anything, because it's something I have not experienced yet. I have been sort of rewatching some Red Dwarf episodes recently, and come to find out, they actually, I believe it was last week, dropped a brand new special over in the UK.
Nice.
So I am curious. It is entitled The Promised Land. And if you go on YouTube, you can catch, there was a thing that had like the first 5 minutes of it as a tease. You could check that out. And I am curious to see. I need to start figuring out when we're going to get access to that over here, because it looks like it might be interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, after all these years.
Yeah.
They're still 30 plus years later. They had still been putting out reasonably good stuff. So, not consistently, mind you, but that's all right. Take what you can get.
Well, it's better to be inconsistent but be good than be consistent and be not as good.
Right, absolutely. If they were putting out stuff every year and it sucked, then it wouldn't be any fun.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Okay, Les.
Okay. I've become addicted to Netflix and Amazon Prime, taking in documentaries and movies. I watched a documentary called Unspeakable Horrors, The Plan 9 Conspiracy, which was kind of a spoof of a review of Plan 9 from Outer Space. It was fun, but it became kind of dull at the end, and I should have turned it off a lot sooner.
You mean like the movie?
The movie I adore.
It's great, but it does get boring at times.
It can. There can be pockets of it you go, no, I'm okay. I'll see if I can find something else on. I found a series called Monster Madness, and I recommend that to everybody. They cover monster movies. One is from the start. One is the Universal Monsters. One episode is the Gothic, which covers the British
Hammer and all that.
the Hammer, yes, and that was really good too.
Yeah, I think I watched some of that one. It was good.
If you get a chance, it's great. I watched You Can't Do That, Making of a Hard Day's Night, which was an insight as to the creation of that movie, and it was pretty good. Of course, they talked with several of the actors, some of the writers, the director, and how they wanted to fit various songs into the movie. I watched Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary, which was about the movie, and is that 30 years now?
I was thinking 25 anyway. I was thinking like 94, 95, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And then, of course, I took in a couple of stupid movies. Samurai Cop and Samurai Cop 3. I can't access Samurai Cop 2. And I'm really bummed because both 2 and 3 have Tommy Wiseau as one of the actors. The man from The Room. And, oh, God, it's horrible.
I think RiffTrax has done at least one of those.
Yes, they've done one, and they send it up pretty good, but just to sit and watch it is enough fun. You can make up your own jokes because they leave it right open. There are scenes in it that are similar to Plan 9 where they start filming and it's night, and then it's midday, and then it's night, and you're going, how long is this fight? And then, of course, for the Easter season, I watched Easter Bunny Bloodbath.
Oh boy.
And on that one, I also wonder, why the hell did I watch it? It was so stupid. It was just a question of who lives, who dies, and you're placing bets. So.
Nice.
Well, I have to say, you scared me there for a second. When you started talking about you can't do that, I thought, oh my God, you can't do that on television? What the hell?
Oh, no. No.
That was an awesome show.
That was.
Yeah,
Alanis
but I know
Morissette was on that show.
yeah, for like 7 episodes or something.
Yeah, like the last season.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't expect Les to be watching it, so I remember watching it back during the day.
See, I had to
He was
watch
a
that
bit
one in
slime.
secret because that one with the parents,
Mhm.
they're like, the kids are so rude and kids shouldn't be rude. And so, yeah, I had to watch it on the down low. That's sad.
Well, for me, actually, I kind of started watching some stuff on Amazon Prime. Actually, it was kind of late in the week, but I kind of started watching some old spaghetti westerns. Kind of got that bug of wanting to kind of watch some of those. And one of them I watched was Death Rides a Horse. Has anybody seen this one? With Lee Van Cleef and John Philip Law?
Yes.
I am woefully behind on my spaghetti western watching.
I don't think I've seen that one.
This was an interesting one. John Philip Law plays character as a boy. He witnesses his father being murdered, and then his older sister and mother being raped and murdered by this group of criminals. Well, fast forward 15 years later, he's older, he's learned how to shoot and is really good at it, and he decides, okay, now is his time to get his revenge. Lee Van Cleef plays a criminal who spent the last 15 years in jail by basically being put in prison by the same guys who murdered John Philip Law's family. So both of them are kind of wanting to get revenge. And instead of the typical fashion of, hey, let's team up and get a revenge, they're kind of doing, well, I'm going to get there before you and do everything they can to stop the other one from getting there first. And there is an interesting twist at the end. But it was a pretty good movie. I mean, there was parts that kind of lagged a little bit, but I thought it was an interesting movie. And I forgot there's another actor there. I'm trying to remember, it's Dawson was the last name. Anthony Dawson, who was in the first James Bond movie, Dr. No. He was the scientist who killed his secretary. Was working for Dr. No. I can't remember his name right now.
Oh, Strangways?
Strangways, thank you. Strangways. And it's something I found out doing a little research, because he was also the voice of Blofeld in the next two Bond movies.
Interesting.
I did not know that. So it was an interesting film. And then the other one I seen, but it had been a long, long time, so it was kind of nice to see it again. Also starred Lee Van Cleef. Of course, he did a lot of spaghetti westerns back in the day. Sabata. So you may sing this one.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
I recommend this one. It's a little bit on the unique side, but I enjoy the hell out of it. He plays a gunman who goes into this small town in Texas, where the town leaders are basically trying to they steal the money of the town and are essentially going to try to double cross the town for their own purposes because there's a railroad line that's supposed to be coming by, and everybody's just so excited about the possibilities of the town going to grow and everything's going to be great and all this. Meanwhile, the town leaders are ready to scam them. And he's aware, he knows what's going on, and of course he's trying to fleece them for money, and it's a real. I like the movie. I really do. And that's actually a first of what they call the Sabata trilogy, although the second one didn't star Lee Van Cleef. It actually starred Yul Brynner, which is ironic because Lee Van Cleef could not do the role because he was actually playing the Yul Brynner role in Magnificent Seven in the third Magnificent Seven film. So, isn't that funny? So, y'all get it? I mean, Yul Brynner, of course, he didn't want to do any more Magnificent Sevens after doing the second one. So, Lee Van Cleef was cast. So, since he couldn't do that, they got Yul Brynner to play Lee Van Cleef's role in Sabata.
Dang.
But Lee Van Cleef comes back for the third one, which is dorky as hell, but I still love that one as well. So it's a little bit more goofy than the previous films, but I still enjoy it. So I'm kind of getting back into my spaghetti westerns. There's another one on Amazon Prime that I really wanted to watch because I've heard about it, but I've not seen it. It's called it's like the Man Named Nobody or something like that with Henry Fonda and Terrence Hill.
Yeah. My Name is Nobody.
My Name is Nobody. There you go. Thank you, sir.
And I think the second movie Terrence Hill did was My Name is Still Nobody or something like that.
Okay.
And those are kind of light westerns.
Mm-hmm.
A little more comedy.
Well, I just want to see Henry Fonda in a spaghetti western. I mean, I've seen Once Upon a Time in the West, which is Sergio Leone's film. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he did more, I would love to see. I mean, I know he's done westerns. I mean, I've seen him in a few. But
My Darling Clementine was really good by him, too.
That one, Warlock.
Yeah.
With Anthony Quinn and Richard Widmark. Frank Gorshin was in there. DeForest Kelly. I mean, it's a nice little cast there.
Yes.
He's done a few westerns, and some of them he was actually the bad guy. So
that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Wasn't he the bad guy in 3:10 to Yuma?
He may have been, and I hate to say it, I have not watched that one. Not the original one.
Because Van Heflin was the hero.
Yeah, he was the hero. I got this here. Glenn Ford.
Oh, Glenn Ford, sorry. Another guy you would not expect to do a villain role.
Yeah. Yeah, any film, any western with Glenn Ford. Well, anything with Glenn Ford's good. So I'm surprised I've not watched this. I've not watched the 10 or 15. I need to. All right. Let's go ahead and get into this week's discussion. The origins of this actually came a few weeks, maybe a month or so back. There was some discussion that was started up on Facebook. And it was basically kind of I miss Wizard magazine. And for those who are not aware of Wizard, it was a magazine that started up in the 90s that was a kind of a comics industry related magazine. They'll have news and features and all this other stuff. There was also a kind of a limited price guide at the back too. But the kind of discussion was, would something like that be successful now? kind of an industry-related magazine. Would that work now, and how would it work, and what would you do, and all that? And I thought that was kind of an interesting thought. So I just thought that could be something that we might want to discuss a little bit and kind of hypothesize. And so, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, as good of a magazine as it was, I don't think we'll have anything like that again, just because, we have comic book sites like CBR and that kind of thing to where they kind of do kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And most things have moved to a digital age. But also, you have DC, who does their DC Talk. Image has their Image Plus that they put out. I'm not sure. Does Marvel do anything like that? I'm not sure. I know they put out their independent previews catalog, but some of that does have some. I don't know. No, I guess it doesn't even talk about some of the upcoming things, just the synopsis of them. But
I think they do. I think they do videos just like DC does, of kind of just maybe some stuff that's upcoming, but in terms of like a magazine or something like that, I think it's just basically catalog.
Just catalog.
Yeah.
So I think if they saw it kind of gain traction with Image Plus and the DC one, I think they would kind of hop onto that bandwagon too and do their own.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays though we have too much technology at our fingertips to where it's really hard for magazines nowadays to survive.
Yeah, and I think part of the deal there is that it's gotten, because of that kind of advance in technology, it's gotten so easy to kind of do your own,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to have a hard time finding anybody willing to put up basically the capital to try to be the industry-wide one of those. I think it's a little too risky an investment, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to be willing to do the work and kind of have everything set up beforehand. And that's on the assumption that people are going to buy it. And I don't know that that's going to be the case, especially when they can just go online and get the same stuff for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
Didn't they charge for theirs for a little while and then they gave them for free?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me, but
yeah. So it kind of was, if that was the case, I can't remember exactly, but it's kind of like nobody was buying it, but we're paying a lot for these interviews.
In the day and age, and y'all already brought it up, is the fact that by the time the magazine comes out, it's old news. It's literally old news 24 hours later.
Right. Not to mention the month it takes to print the stupid thing and get it to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
For something like Wizard, again, it's going to have to be unique. The features are going to have to be unique, and that's going to be tricky. You're going to have to come up with something that the other, the websites wouldn't be able to do or hadn't thought of doing. I mean, there's some existence now. I point out the stuff that comes up by Tomorrow's Publishing. I love Back Issue. I love Alter Ego, but it's past stuff. Alter Ego for features. It's features on characters and stories and creators from Golden Age, Silver Age of comics. Back Issue is basically the 1970s on. So it's not new. It's not current stuff. It's not stuff that's coming up. It's in the past. So that's something unique. And I like that because it gives me an opportunity to learn stuff about stories that I've read in the past and there's information there I did not know.
History.
It's history. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
For a magazine, a new magazine. I mean, considering the avenues. I mean, Yar already mentioned it. You have the publishers having YouTube videos or just videos on their website, promotional magazines, that kind of thing. It's like I said, you're gonna have to come up with something extremely unique,
Mm-hmm.
and something that hits a mark that gets the public to go buy the next issue. And I mean, not just next month, but next year.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult. I'm not saying it's not possible. Just it's going to be very difficult. You're going to have to find something that's not being provided by another source.
See, and I think too, when Wizard came out, it was filling a void that wasn't there. You know, like you guys are saying with the social media and stuff, it's so easy to stay in the know. I mean, I can tell you what Scott Snyder had for breakfast this morning. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's yeah.
At least until the restraining order comes down.
Right. You know, right. I'm still waiting. Fingers crossed.
Well, you know, if he doesn't want you to know what he had for breakfast, he shouldn't put it on his damn Twitter account. But anyway.
Right. He should block me.
What, again? I'm kidding.
But nowadays, there's a lot of... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I think nowadays there's a lot of other mediums that are covering comics that weren't before. And so it's kind of been absorbed into the other outlets. You know, Entertainment, or it was Entertainment Weekly. Weren't they the ones that did the whole Batman's not getting married, you know, New York Times? So
definitely New York Times had it.
Yeah. So we're having a lot more publications that never even thought about comics that are now talking about it, you know. And we've had a lot of great TV shows that have kind of spurred it into the mainstream now, where more people know about comics than before. So I think now there's not a void there to be filled with something like that. It has been filled.
Your thoughts, Les?
Well, I was very happy to see Bleeding Cool come out with a magazine, because I thought that would be a way to get the info, and they were doing just that. They were not doing coverages of Price Guide, but they did have articles. They did cover stories and characters, but it kind of disappeared quickly. And that's probably because it was easier access on the internet.
Mm-hmm. And cheaper.
Well, yeah, it was. But to me, when it was being published, the Comic Buyer's Guide was cheaper than Wizard. And in that, you had newspaper-sized pages with articles, coverages of new titles. I remember one issue was talking about the death of Gwen Stacy, and they covered it in pretty full detail. They've had articles about William Stout, Will Eisner, and Buku. The problem I had with Wizard was you would pick up an issue and it depended upon which publisher they liked the best that month. And I'm not saying they would cover everything Marvel, everything DC, everything Image or Dark Horse or something. They would just make sure that the DC titles would be prominent and What if I wanted to know what Dark Horse was doing, or Image or Marvel?
Yeah.
I was not getting the coverage. It was slanted coverage. That's where I had a problem. Now, the giveaways they had were pretty spectacular. Everything from number 1/2 comics to trading cards, exclusive trading cards. I think I got a Two-Face coin from one of them. And that's one way to bring in people, but the article coverage was not what drew me to that magazine, and definitely not the price guide. You get 30 pages of price guide. I'm not sure that I really need that. If I want, I can pick up my price guide and look at that and just about get the same numbers. But because they had an article on the Hulk, they're going to run the price guide on Hulk issues. I wasn't fond of it. I would like to see something come out. I would like to have something that could give us the articles and give us what's coming up. That's why I was sad to see Comic Buyer's Guide shut down after such a long period, because that was from early 70s till just a few years ago.
Yeah.
The one magazine I really like getting, because I did get Wizard. I didn't get it all the time, but I would pick it up from time to time. I enjoyed Comic Scene. That was kind of the fun magazine. And of course, that one kind of disappeared about mid to mid-late 90s, and it's probably because of the popularity of Wizard, because it had been around since the early 80s, or at least one incarnation during the early 80s. And it was put out by Starlog, or the same people that did Starlog who did Fangoria. It's a different time now.
Mm-hmm. And I do like that kind of thing. Like the Image one, I always pick that up. I always picked up the DC ones. It's interesting. And usually they talk to some really neat people, so it would be a neat idea. I just don't think anybody would do it.
Well, currently you can pick up the newspaper edition at your local comic shop for, what is that weekly they have, Thomas? Like Awesome Comics has copies of it there, and I'm drawing a blank.
Like Comic Shoppers Weekly or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're talking about, yeah.
And that is a good way to find out about what's coming up. They don't go in depth as to many articles, but they do give you a pretty good coverage of what's coming up next month. And that's a savior right there.
Yeah.
And those are usually handed out by the owners. So if you get a chance to find one, do so. It's worth the time.
In previews, they do a couple of, interviews and that kind of thing, or previews. You know what I mean, where they give you 5 or 6 pages of the comic coming out. But to me, with previews, it's too much. It's just too much. I get into it and it's like, ooh, I want that. And then you flip the book over and it's like, oh God, I'm in hell. I want all this.
Yeah.
So to me, I like the options we have now. Previews is just overwhelming and can get me in trouble quick. But I don't like that Marvel was like, oh, but here's our book now. So now there's another book on top of this big, thick book that I have to look at to get everything. And then I think Image kind of split out of that too. And it was like, wait, here's ours. So it's too much. So it would be nice to have one, chop it down, dumb it down.
And the problem is that you've got just so much stuff coming out in that whatever time frame they're using. What is Previews monthly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I mean, if to literally list every title from every publisher that comes out, yeah, that's a crap load of stuff to list. I can see where Image and Marvel want to get their own book out there so they can just to not get lost in the mess that is Previews. I mean, it'd be easy to skip over Marvel in a book like that because there's so much other crap in there.
But sometimes after going through that big book, you forget to look at the other ones. So it was like, oh, yeah, I didn't even see that came out because I forgot to look at it, you know.
I went from front to where my eyes started hurting, and I stopped.
Yeah.
You know, there was 3/4 of the book left at that point, and so you're missing a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in that regard, the instantaneous nature of the internet is, I mean, it makes it easier because you can get stuff straight from the publisher. And so if you've got a publisher you know you're going to like their stuff, great, you can just get their stuff and see what they have and pull down others kind of as needed.
So I see his websites where you can go directly and get what you want. It's kind of like direct shopping. Mm-hmm. And Previews is more like window shopping. You know what you want, but you see a couple other things you may want to.
Previews is kind of like the winter Sears Roebuck catalog monthly.
Yep.
It's massive.
It is.
You're talking close to 600 pages per.
And after going through the ordering process, I realized why they do that. They need that time, and shops need that time and everything else too, but ooh, Lordy. When you have ADD, it's a nightmare. Just to be able to sit down, and then my bad eyesight and those little bitty words. So
it's not easy. Yeah,
it's not. Mm-mm.
I know.
And that's why I like having good friends who are like, hey, you may want to read this.
Well, it's because those good friends have been reading the Previews magazine, so they know what's coming up.
Right.
They're distilling it down for you.
Yep. It's cool with me. I'll even buy the book. What was it, $6? Read it. Tell me what I want. But yeah, I think to sum up what I've said, I think the internet has made it kind of obsolete.
Yeah.
Great ideal.
Well, yeah, and it worked for a long time before the internet.
Yeah.
And really, if you think about it, about the time that it went out was about the time that the comic book world just kind of exploded. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of
wonder if it was just a right place, right time moment.
I think Frank Miller kind of hurt Wizard a lot. When you call it the Bible wrote by Satan and a waste of trees.
Does that hurt or does it help, though? I mean,
True.
The whole bad publicity thing. I don't know. One guy starts ranting, and I don't know that people stop buying the book for that.
Right.
True. And they did have Mark Millar, so if anybody could have made it work, it would have been him. So it is kind of funny that Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern was their last issue. Yeah, that movie killed a lot of things, didn't it? It was kind of fitting.
A little bit, yeah. Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unless somebody can find a way to shorten the process of printing a physical copy of a magazine, it's probably not coming back anytime soon.
Or have a crystal ball.
Well, or like I said, just have something unique that is not being done by anything that's been done on the internet. Which I don't know what that would be, but that's not my problem.
Yeah.
You know, and someone might come up with something, and it may work, it may not, but who knows?
Yeah.
I suspect they're going to try to figure out a way to put it on the internet rather than trying to print a physical.
Probably.
But, you know.
Well, that's kind of what
even so,
Bleeding Cool did.
Right. Even so, more power to them.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. I'm not that creative, so.
No, and it's a lot to keep up with. I mean, think of the comic book world today has changed drastically 2 months ago, you know. So it would definitely be hard to keep up with.
Yep.
All right, Les, any final thoughts before we take our break?
I wish I could help fund somebody to put a magazine like that out.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely step in and put a few bucks down for that, because I think it's necessary. The previews for DC and for Marvel are a little different. There's no doubt. One has a tendency to explain most everything about the issue. The other one is a minimal explanation in hopes that you're hooked.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to have articles about writers, artists, idea men, just anything in that vein to get me to pick up their book when it comes out.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, but don't be like Wizard and pander to a specific group or publisher and say, buy this book and all will be well, because that doesn't necessarily mean it. It has a tendency to go off track. Kind of like the way I talk, it strays. So, set a guideline and go for it.
Yeah.
I think it's necessary. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll find it because, as explained before, the media now is so there that anybody can pick up their information from a website. Not that they would understand what's going on all the time, but that's the way it's going to tack out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts? I think we pretty much all kind of said our piece.
Yeah.
It's just another part of history it's just gone, and we can't bring it back.
No.
We found different, if not better, ways to get the information that came out of it. So
Yep. All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and be right back. Welcome back. As we mentioned earlier in the show, since we do not have new comics coming out this week, what we decided we were going to do was pick items or pick books that you might have missed that hopefully we can get you interested enough that you might contact your local comic book store, who are offering curbside pickup, shipping. In some cases, depending on how far away you live from them, they're even doing deliveries. contactless deliveries. So you'll just need to contact your comic store and see, and they'll be more than happy to help you out with whatever you want to order from them. And by all means, please pick up your pulls from prior times if you've not had the opportunity to. Please help them out. They need your help. So, with that said, here are titles you may have missed, and I will lead off this week. And for my choice, from Third World Studios, I'm picking the Stuff of Legend Omnibus 1. This actually collects the first 2 chapters of a series that I just saw recently. They're trying to finish up Chapter 5 and already promising to do Chapter 6, which will be the finale. So we will get the end of this story, and it is about a boy in Britain during World War II who was kidnapped by the boogeyman, was dragged into his closet, and this was witnessed by his little puppy and some of his toys, who decide to go into the closet to rescue him. And once they go into the closet, it's literally an alternate world, and they become real-life versions of themselves. There's a teddy bear that actually becomes a grizzly bear, like a plastic World War I soldier turns into an actual soldier, Indian princess, a jack-in-a-box, and all that. Really, really fascinating story, and the art is beautiful. I can't highly recommend. I can't recommend this one enough. It's such a great read, and I'm so glad that they're trying to finish this story up, because I'm wanting to know how this is going to end. But definitely check this out. It's called The Stuff of Legend. It's from Third World Studios. And third is actually spelled TH and then the number 3 RD.
Cool. That sounds like a fun story.
It is a spectacular story.
It's been, like I said, it's been incredible. It's in the art. It's all done in sepia, because it's all just kind of in that kind of that tone. It just looks great. Alrighty, Les, you are next.
My choice is from DC Comics, and it is the collection of their storyline Deceased. In this one, you've got the anti-life equation, and it becomes a virus that attacks all the DC universe. Tom Taylor wrote it. Trevor Hairsine and Neil Edwards were artists, and the inker was Stefano Guadino. This was a spectacular series. It was 6 issues, but in it, the writer and the artist pull no punches. They lay it down, and because of it, they made such a really spectacular show. Taylor was unafraid of writing and didn't fear anything that was prominent. They just took it on, and in the final chapter, there's an anti-living Superman that is attacking. So Wonder Woman and several others have to come up with a way to defeat the anti-living Superman. As far as the bad about it, the good was I've told you about. The bad, I can't say there's anything bad. It's just that much fun to see the characters and the arcs that they have for several of those characters. It's in a collection now because the publication, the last issue was in October of last year. So you can find it on the shelf now. And like Thomas says, find one of the shops that will make arrangements for you, because this is well worth the time. And it's highly recommended. It's just so much fun.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it made a big impact.
Yeah, I was happy to see that, because you had a lot of different people taking different roles. Damian Wayne as Batman, Dinah Lance as Green Lantern. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my pick, I actually cheat a little bit because I didn't find out about this one till today. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's called Four Eyes by Image Comics. They've put out 2 volumes of this, Volume 1 and Volume 2, but it's about 1930s Brooklyn. And a little boy loses his father to, he was a dragon fighter, and a dragon kills his father. Well, he finds an egg, and he winds up raising this dragon, which of course has 4 eyes, which makes it kind of useless in the fighting world. But, he kind of overcomes this beast killed my dad kind of thing and bonds with this dragon. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. They kind of become one. He kind of sees for him. So it's a beautiful story. It's wrote by Joe Kelly, which of course has wrote pretty much everything at DC and Marvel. Like I said, it's a really good story. Different time period. Of course, his mother now being a widow, the little boy feels like he's got to take care of his mom. In 1930s, he is the man of the house, and he feels this is the way that he can do that for her. So, cute story. It's kind of sad. It definitely, it's one of those that makes you feel good after you've read it. So, that is Four Eyes by Joe Kelly.
Yeah, the art's pretty amazing in that book, too.
It is. Max Fumera does the artwork in that one.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, Mike.
Okie dokie. So I am picking a Valiant book, and I'm going with Britannia. There have been 3 volumes of this. I do not know if there's a 4th one planned or not, but this is set in Roman times. Nero is the emperor, and he is a semi-prominent character throughout. He is not the main character, though. The main character is a fellow named Antonius. He is a Roman soldier who, at the beginning of the first volume, has been through some stuff and kind of came out of it pushed to the brink of madness. He was nursed back to health by the Temple of Vesta, and the way they did it was basically they gave him this book, which was the closest thing you would have in Roman times to a primer on being a detective, seeking out details and putting them together. So putting his mind, he read this book and kind of put his mind back together, as he was learning to put the clues together. And so there, like I said, 3 volumes. Each of them is a really fun and detailed mystery that Antonius has to solve, and he picks up some interesting characters along the way, and it's a lot of fun. And the art is, again, just beautiful.
Yeah, I'm about overdue to read those again. But
Yeah.
they were great reads.
Yep. Good stuff.
Alrighty, and once again, we highly recommend that if you can, please support your local stores. They're offering curbside pickup. They're offering shipping. In some cases, they're offering deliveries. They would be happy to work with you. If you can, just through this tough time, just try to help them out. And of course, we would also advise, if you can, help out creators. A lot of them have Patreon. Their artists are offering to do commissions or have art on their websites for sale. Writers, of course, have their books and other things on their websites for sale. And if you can, help them out, because it's difficult for them as well. So
Mm-hmm.
try to help out the creators as well as the comic book stores if you can.
Speaking of, Jimmy Palmiotti is talking about having a Kickstarter up later this week. So by the time we drop this, it should be up and going.
Cool. Definitely cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I've checked that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said he was going to wait because he didn't think the timing was right. But he's like, I feel like everybody needs a little entertainment right now. So, and I agree. We're stuck at home.
Which is very similar to what Steve Bryant said the other day. Just a
Yep,
fact to
it is.
us.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Alrighty. Any special shout outs this week or mentions?
I've got a kind of a sad one, and maybe a slightly obscure one too, because I don't know how many people in our audience are going to know who this is. But news came down today that Tim Brooke Taylor died. And for those of you who are not familiar with that name, he was one of the names, one of the people who were coming up through the British comedy scene at the same time as the Pythons. So pretty much all of them had worked with him before, and they all loved the guy. So it's kind of sad that he's gone, but yeah.
That is.
Yep.
I did see mention of that. Yeah. I do have another passing that we should note. Y'all may have seen this. I don't know. I assume some of our audience may be familiar with this name. You certainly are familiar with his work. Mort Drucker passed away this past week.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
One of the artists on Mad Magazine for several years. He did a lot of the movie and TV show parodies. If you're familiar with those, with the caricatures of the actors, that's Mort Drucker. Yeah, at the age of 96, I believe. Another great one, great artist, and it was always fun looking at those pages. It's just another part of that past that's gone. I was thinking about the other day when I heard that. I was thinking about who was left from the old guard. I mean, growing up reading Mad Magazine, and unfortunately, there's not a lot. I mean, there's Al Jaffe at 99. He just celebrated his 99th birthday.
Dang.
And Sergio Aragonés, but I don't know how much of the old guard's still around. I think it's those two, and that may be it. No. So.
They will be missed.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Any other mentions or shout-outs?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Well, I do have one more, and this is a shout-out, and it's a positive one. I had found out this past week, it was within the past week, some friends of the fellowship have started a podcast, and I've known them almost from the get-go of the fellowship. If you remember, if you listened to our 10th anniversary special we had a few weeks back, talking about the early days that we were doing webcasts on Ustream. There was a channel that I discovered called Streaming Garage, and this was essentially like Hulu, Netflix, or anything like this back in the day. When we're talking 2010, they were coming up with original content and streaming it.
Mm-hmm.
So just original shows. There could be nightclub acts or other shows. And one that caught my attention, and I introduced it to Les, and I think I introduced it to Mike too back in the day, was Super Scary Horror Theater. And this was the brainchild of Elaine Ewing and Travis Rink. And this was a kind of they showed a horror movie, and you had a hostess. It's based, it's kind of like the Elvira, so the Ghoulie in that mode, and it was a fun show. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Sadly, Streaming Garage did not last too long, but I had become friends with Elaine and Travis, and they started up a new podcast called "What Are Travis and Elaine Watching?" So I've listened to one or two of the episodes, and it's really cool. I think y'all would enjoy it. We'll have a link in the show notes for y'all to check out as well. But congrats to them. They're making do with the time that they have, being stuck at home. So they're doing nothing but watching TV, especially streaming stuff. So they're kind of, pointing out some of the stuff that they're watching and discussing it. So it's, they're making lemonade, So nice. Definitely want y'all to check that out. And like I said, we'll have a link in the show notes. So, congrats, Travis and Elaine. I wish y'all a lot of success, and please check them out. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead with our. Go ahead.
I had said good luck, but I was muted, so good luck to you.
With that, we'll go ahead and go into our regular shout-outs. Obviously, want to thank Pop Culture Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow shows. Definitely want you to check them out as well. The link will be in the show notes. And, of course, the fine folks that make up Podern Family on Twitter. We always appreciate their support by retweeting our links. We want you to go check them out as well. And the easiest way to do that is when you're on Twitter, just do a search, hashtag Podern Family as one word, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, by all means, click that link, download the episode, and I hope you have fun. So thank you guys for your support as always. Want to thank Manny the Murder for supplying the music to the podcast. I want you to check out their music. Obviously, the link will be in the show notes for their couple of EPs they had put out. Thank you guys as always. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We always appreciate your support and value your feedback. If you have any kind of questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please contact us. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out. We do have a Facebook page, The Fellowship of the Geeks, and obviously we have a Twitter account, @Fellowship Geeks. By all means, follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, you can do that. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_Geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes or listen to our episodes, if you take a couple of moments to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, and be sure to check out your local comic shops.
And wash your hands.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Stay safe. Stay home. Stay the fuck away from me. On that note, we do thank you for listening every day. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,